Good evening. Welcome to the 2012 Sioux Falls City Council Candidate Forum. We have 3 candidates vying an at-large position, 3 candidates for the Southwest District, 2 candidates each for the Northeast and Northwest District, for a total of 10 candidates for 4 positions on the City Council. Because of the large number, the forum will be divided as follows. The 5 candidates for the at-large positions and the Northwest District will answer questions for the first hour, and the 5 candidates for the Southwest and Northeast Districts will answer questions for the second hour. I am Amy Scott Stoltz. I'm the moderator for today's forum, and I'm representing the League of Women Voters. Today's forum is being held at the Carnegie Town Hall, where the Sioux Falls City Council meets. Our forum is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Sioux Falls, the Sioux Falls Area Chamber of Commerce, and the City of Sioux Falls. We appreciate their partnership and appreciate the participation of the City Council candidates. Our forum is live on April 3rd, and if you're watching at this time, you can call in with any questions by dialing 367-8080. This number will be appearing on your screen during the program. You may also email questions to clerks@siouxfalls.org. Today's forum is also being web streamed and is available for viewing at www.siouxfalls.org under the City Council Meetings link under Key Resources. This forum will also be rebroadcast on CityLink. We hope you will encourage your friends and family to view and become informed voters. Voting is April 10th. The voter registration deadline for this election was March 26th. Our candidates today will have 2-minute introductions each, and as we present questions, they will each have 1 minute to respond. There will be no closing comments, nor are there rebuttals today. We have a timer located up front to let you know when you have 30 seconds and when your time is up. We are looking for audience questions. For those of you that are here, there are note cards for you to write your questions on, and one of our runners will pick them up for you if you just want to hold them up. As we start, we ask that you turn your cell phones to silent, and if you need to hold a conversation, please do so outside of the room. The first introductory comments will follow in the order in which the candidates appear on the ballot for each group. We will begin with at-large candidates Kermit Staggers, followed by Dee Knutson and Corey Butemeyer, then Northwest District candidates James Eisbrand and Dean Karski. Kermit Staggers, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Amy, for that introduction. I am Kermit Staggers, and I teach history and political science at the University of Sioux Falls. At the University of Sioux Falls, I teach a number of government courses, and of course I teach those courses from an academic perspective. But also at the same time, I'm able to give real-life experience in those courses, having served in Air Force intelligence, having served in the State Senate, and of course having served on the City Council. Sometimes people wonder, why am I running for the City Council this time? And the answer very simply is because the citizens of Sioux Falls truly need a voice on the City Council. When I was on the City Council previously, that was not always the case. And so that's my primary goal, to represent the citizens of Sioux Falls. The people in Sioux Falls are concerned about the upcoming construction of the event center, hoping that we will truly spend $115 million, because that's what the promise was made by the city. And so if I am elected to the City Council, I'll be very vigilant in trying to make sure that we truly keep the promise to the citizens of Sioux Falls to spend only $115 million, not $1 more. In this last Sunday's Argus Leader, the headline on the front page was Campaign of Contrasts. And the article that followed that headline gave a very good representation of how the contrast is between myself and my primary opponent, Dee Knutson. Less so with my other opponent, Corey Butemeyer, who tends to be closer to me in his views on politics. But one sharp contrast between Dee and myself is in regard to taxation. Dee has expressed the view that we're not really taxed enough in South Dakota. We're only 49th or 50th. Well, the important thing to keep in mind is that, hey, we have low wages in South Dakota. We have to have low taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Dee Knutson.
Good evening. I'm Dee Knutson. If I am re-elected to the City Council on April 10th, I will fight for an appropriate balance between our infrastructure needs and long-term development, because both are crucial to growing new jobs. That means supporting continued maintenance of the roads we drive on every day and major projects like the River Greenway, improving our city parks, and downtown development. These projects will improve our quality of life and make Sioux Falls a more attractive place to do business. If we continue to do all of this wisely and to invest wisely, we can do all of this without raising city tax rates. And I'd like to add that during the 8 years I was on City Council, the Sioux Falls city tax rate went down 7 cents actually. And then also I would just like to say that I'm very optimistic about our city and the future of our city. Sales tax revenue is up. Building permits are up. Obviously on November 8th, the citizens spoke very loudly, very clearly that they're ready to move forward and build a wonderful event center, which I predict will take our city to the next level. Again, as you all know, we have talked about that issue for 13 years, and I think it was more than time that we decided to build that facility. I am not a status quo person. I am fiscally very responsible, and during my 8 years on City Council, we added a great deal of money to the reserve fund. This city right now is in excellent financial shape, I might add also. In the general fund in 2010, the key point that I want to say before I run out of time is that revenues grew way faster than expenditures, and I think that's a very important fact for all of us to remember as we go forward. Our city is building an event center, a beautiful event center, without any tax increase.
Thank you. Corey Butemeyer.
Hello, everyone. My name is Corey Butemeyer, running for at-large City Council candidate. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm 39 years old. I'm a lifelong resident of Sioux Falls. I'm a U.S. Marine. I'm a disabled veteran, and I'm the manager of a small business downtown called the Rail House Bakery. I also deliver newspapers for the Argus Leader, so I carry 2 jobs at the moment. I am an outsider compared to my 2 opponents, and I think that gives me a leg up in this campaign. People are looking for a change. They're looking for new blood. People have become very upset with the council and its the current council and previous councils, that people aren't being heard. I've went out door to door and people said, I don't know if I even want to vote because it doesn't matter. And it feels like I don't matter. Well, I want to tell those people, you do matter. You do matter to me. You may not matter to my opponents, but you do to me. I would appreciate your vote. I do want to make this city great. I want to bring it some new life, and I know I can do that. Thank you.
Thank you. James Eisbrand.
Good evening. Thanks for everyone showing up tonight. I'd like to especially thank the League of Women Voters and the Chamber and the city for sponsoring this event, for you to get a chance to meet the candidates. Like I say, I'm James Eisbrand. I'm a lifelong resident of Sioux Falls, and I grew up in the North End, what is now known as Pettigrew Heights area. And when I got out of Washington High School, I went in the Air Force and served my country for 4 years. And I learned electronics, and when I came back, I got a job at Business Aviation, which is now Landmark Aviation. So I've had quite the background with electronics, and I worked at Sioux Falls Transit after that. I became a operations supervisor. For 11 years I worked there, and I learned a lot about things that go on at City Hall and things about infrastructure and traffic and how our city works as far as public transportation. And you know, one of my interests is being on the City Council or running for City Council is the fact that the new event center, I want to make sure we follow through on that. And I also, you know, growing up, I was in a small business with my family, and I understand the importance of business and the economic development. I'm a real big advocate of small business, and I would like to help in any way I can promote small business in the city and economic development in all parts of the city, because I know what the event center out where it is in my district, the Northwest District, there's opportunity there for development after that gets done. And then like downtown with the Hilton Gardens and the River Greenway, there's so many exciting things going on in Sioux Falls, and I guess what I would do on the city council is I would try to keep those efforts and the good plans that we have already going forward. And I'd appreciate your support this April 10th, and thanks again for having me here.
Thank you. Dean Karski.
Good evening. My name's Dean Karski, and I too appreciate the opportunity to be here. I was here 4 years ago when I ran for the city council, and I guess I was the first loser. I took second place, but last year I was appointed to the council by the existing council, and loved the job, trying to keep it. After 6 years in the Air Force, my wife and I moved here in 1989 to raise our family, and I think we've done a pretty good job. We have a son who bought a home in Sioux Falls, is married, another one up at State, and a daughter who's going to be graduating from high school this fall. Since moving to town, I started a business. I have 5 employees right now. But I made it a commitment to be involved in the community, and I did that from day one. And I've been involved in numerous organizations as a board member or officer in them for church, civic, professional, community groups. Just love being involved in the community. And one of my favorite things to do is being the junior in the classroom as a junior achievement volunteer. It's great to spend time in the classroom with the kids. Serving on the Sioux Falls City Council is a high honor and one that I do wish to continue. I spent more than a year now knocking on doors in the Northwest District, and it is a very diverse district, the newest homes to the oldest and most established neighborhoods. And my conversations with people in their homes have given me a very good understanding of the diversity and the needs of the entire district. And I guess high on that list of needs is our infrastructure. We need to make sure that we keep an eye on, while we're looking at our growth, we keep an eye on our core, and we can't neglect that. As a city councilor, I'll work to keep opportunities available to individuals of all means. I see well-planned, organized growth as essential for our infrastructure, and we need that to keep pace with our growth, and we need to keep our neighborhoods and land uses uniform and consistent. You have my promise to keep I guess my time is up.
Thank you. We're now ready to begin with our audience questions, and please remember you can continue to submit questions as we go through the event. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to the questions, and the order of responses will be rotated among the candidates. The questions we will start with D. Knutson. How would you enhance the recreational and cultural facilities of our city?
I believe that this growing, vibrant city is badly in need of more recreational facilities for all ages of our citizens. Again, our ice facilities are shabby, to say the least. We can only use the outdoor swimming pools about 59 to 61 days a month in the summer, of course. When I say a month, I mean in the whole summer. Wow, not very often. We have very few indoor tennis facilities, and that's just a short list of what we really need for this great community.
Thank you. Corey Butemeyer.
I do also believe that we need to have some of these facilities, especially an indoor swimming pool. I have talked to a few people that said that we would love to have an indoor swimming pool, but we only go to the Y or the YW, and we have a couple swim teams in town, and they could be a lot more competitive regionally if we had an indoor swimming pool. Now, I know this issue has been brought up in years past, and it was shot down. I do believe that we need to have one, but we need to make sure that we can afford it, and that if we do it, that it can be used intelligently and it doesn't take up a heck of a lot of money.
Thank you. James Eisbrand.
I just think some of the things that we're doing today at Sioux Falls are great, like the Sanford Complex and the fact that we're going to have so many opportunities in that area for the sports and the new junior league football fields. I'm a junior league football coach myself, and it's just, all the things that we're doing, the River Greenway project, improving the bike path, things that we're doing in Sioux Falls to help continue for opportunities for young families to go to the park. And I know they're talking about an indoor pool at Spellberg. And I know every year I join the pool and take my 5 children swimming. It's so much fun. There's so many things to do for the public in Sioux Falls as far as recreation. And I think, if I'm elected, I would definitely keep that plan going forward and help out anything I can do with that private and city cooperation with, things like the Sanford Complex. Thanks.
Thank you. Dean Karski.
Couple things. Mic on. A couple things come to mind, I guess. A few months ago, we had a vote on expanding some unused space in the Washington Pavilion to make room for some displays that had been basically stored up, just to bring more people into the Washington Pavilion. We talk about the Spellerberg Pool. I met with the City Parks Department. We're talking about what is that pool going to look like, and I have my own ideas, and I like the idea of kind of making it an indoor pool with it being able to open up some walls so that we can use it year-round, but also have it as an indoor kind of outdoor pool. I love our bike trails. I ride them every year, and I make the whole loop several times, and it's just such a jewel in our community. So just to make sure that keeps going, I talked about zoning and land uses, and we want to keep parks in our neighborhoods, and keeping our neighborhoods, I guess, is probably one of the more important things to me.
Thank you. Kermit Staggers.
Yes, it's we have a real opportunity here in Sioux Falls to even make the recreation and cultural facilities even greater. It's been mentioned that Sanford is, of course, developing the area in the northwestern part of the city. We're going to have the Pentagon there, and then we're going to have the Skyforce playing there. This is private enterprise doing this. The hockey people are out there trying to raise funds to build a hockey rink. And this is wonderful that we have this private initiative taking place here. But we also have to keep in mind when it comes to the city government that the citizens of Sioux Falls have already spoken, haven't they, about what they want to have in terms of recreation and culture and so forth. They want an event center, and the event center costs $115 million. We want to make sure that we have the best event center that we possibly can. So that's where our primary focus should be in the upcoming years, is looking at the event center, making it the best possible.
Thank you. Our next question. Currently, the council's budget process does not include open public input until after the mayor's staff has made their proposals. How would you bring more public input into the process earlier, and what would be the benefit of that involvement? And we will start with Corey Butemeyer.
Yes, I believe that the public is integral for the budget because it is their money, to be completely honest. I think the public input should be brought in at the beginning, at the planning stages, and throughout the whole process. Again, it is their money. If I wanted to know, I want to know where my money is going at all times. So it only seems right to have public forums, public debates on what is the best use of our budget and where it should and where all that money should go. I'm a firm believer in open government and open policy, and I would make sure that that happened. Thank you.
Thank you. James Eisbrand.
Reiterate what Corey said. Yeah, open government. It's important. I know that the mayor's office, they have to look at the CIP and look at the budget and make sure that all the bills get paid. But I mean, when it comes to important issues, people want to know how their tax dollars are being spent. So I know even with any issue like the budget or whatever, it's important that people like tonight show up here and give their 5 minutes and let people know what they think, because sometimes we get good feedback from the citizens, and it's very important. I mean, especially with the budget, because nowadays, you know, the cost of fuel and expenses that are unforeseen. You know, we had to move up our infrastructure repairs on the sewer, and Lewis and Clark coming online. There's all these things that, you know, cost money, and it's very important that we have an open and a chance for people to come and speak their mind, because, like I said, it's invaluable input from the citizens. Thanks.
Thank you. Dean Karski.
While it's true the budget process is only open to public comments once it's been made public what the budget looks like, I will tell you that a lot of public input goes into the budgeting process through the department heads and our directors for the city. if you have questions or you have input, and I have it all the time, people calling me up, we really need to look at this. Meet with your counselors, meet with the department heads, call them up. They want your input. You're on the streets. If you're the voting public, you know your neighborhood. Contact the city. Public input is just a time to talk about maybe specific items in there, but it's not just the time for public involvement in the budgeting process, and I think that goes on year-round with most people. So I encourage the people to be involved, not only when that is published, but from the very beginning.
Thank you. Kermit Staggers.
Yes, it's critically important to have open government. And there are many areas in the city government that should be more open. For example, when we have informational meetings for the city council, I think it's also a good thing to allow citizen input at that time. Because please keep in mind, we have people coming at 4 o'clock, taking time out of their schedules to come to the informational. They should be allowed to say something. Also, at the same time, it's important that when we have the reading of ordinances, that we also allow maximum citizen input. Right now, with the reading of the first ordinance, citizens cannot even have any input at all. And finally, the city council also has to be more open too. When I was on the city council, I had a proposal to have in the title of an ordinance that there's actually a property tax increase. Unfortunately, my colleagues on the council at that time did not disagree. So we passed an ordinance with a title that didn't even indicate to the citizens that there was a property tax increase. We have to change that.
Thank you. Dee Knudsen.
Regarding the budget process, I must emphasize to all of you that open government is live and well in Sioux Falls 24/7. The budget process, you can start this evening if you wish and provide input to the many city councilors that are sitting in this room, or you can email the mayor, or you can call his office and start telling the city councilors and the mayor just exactly what your recommendations are for this year's budget. Again, the process is very, very, very open. I mean, again, many, many meetings are held by administrators, department heads, and so forth. But seriously, I mean, open government is alive and well. And if you have some suggestions for next year's budget, you should start on them this evening.
Thank you. Our next question has to do with moving the railroad. What do you think of the railroad proposed removal to another part of Sioux Falls, and would you be willing to forego the federal money to get the railroad moved? James Eisbrand.
Well, I know it's going to cost a lot of money to move those tracks, the switching tracks, and I wouldn't forego it, but I'm a little disappointed the fact that it's taken so long to get to where we're at today. I know that there's been some contact with the mayor, and then Sue Aguilar flew up on a plane and talked to some of the railroad people themselves, and you know, it's one of those things where it makes good sense on paper to move them and help economic development downtown Sioux Falls, but it's, you know, I think we're running out of time. It's one of those situations where how much is it going to cost? You know, make a good decision for the environmental study for when we remove the tracks, and then to where we're going to move it. And I know a lot of people, you know, they've looked at the different plans and where to move it, and we met a lot of opposition, so I'm sure that's part of the reason it's taken so long. But if we could get it done, I would support it.
Thank you. Dean Karski.
The city's already done a lot with the railroad as far as moving. We've put siding, and by siding I mean parallel tracks out by the airport for the railroads. We've moved tracks on Phillips Avenue, by Falls Park West. We built an overpass at Pasley Park. The city's involved in making our downtown, and that's kind of what this boils down to, is development for our downtown, freeing up land. And, you know, we have $35 million sitting there. If we can make it work, let's make it work. Unfortunately, I don't see, you know, the railroad's not all that excited about moving. They've been in this place for 120, 130 years, and they don't see the need to move. So if we want them to move, it's going to be up to us to move them. So if we have the money and the ability to do it after the environmental assessments, I say we get it done, and it will be for the development of our downtown.
Thank you. Kermit Staggers.
Yes, when I was on the city council, we talked about this issue quite a bit. And at the time, I made 3 different proposals before the city council that we do not ever use any city tax money for this project. Because I'm always concerned when you hear about getting free money from the federal government, that it's not really free at all. Unfortunately, my 3 different proposals to not use city tax money was not supported on the City Council by some of my colleagues. And so consequently, my position is the same today. We cannot use city tax money for this project. Also at the same time, we cannot be building this in the southern part of Sioux Falls. This just happened recently, this discussion about moving a siding to the southern part of Sioux Falls. No, I would not support that at all.
Thank you. Dee Knudsen.
Ideally, I really support the idea of trying to get the railroads moved, the switching yard moved from downtown Sioux Falls. I mean, it's a no-brainer that there would be great economic development by opening up 13 acres. I mean, it's just very, very obvious. But so I do very much support that dream, that concept. But I must say, as time goes on, I'm less and less optimistic about our chances of getting that done. I have full confidence in Mayor Huther and Councilor Chair Sue Aguilar and the rest of the people working very hard on this issue. And again, I am very hopeful that the railroad will be more accommodating or compromising, but I think railroads are difficult to work with. And I'm just I'm not real encouraged tonight that this is really ever going to happen.
Thank you. Corey Butemeyer.
Thank you. Obviously, this is a hot button issue that everybody's been talking about lately. I have kind of changed my opinion over the course of over the campaign. At first, I thought, you know, this would be a great idea because we are freeing up some land in downtown Sioux Falls. And then I got to thinking, you know, we already have a bunch of land downtown that's not being used in the new uptown area. Why don't we develop that area first and then think about moving the tracks? With obviously the events that was in today's paper, I don't agree with moving them to the southwest part of town. If that's the only option now, then I don't say move them at all. Yes, they have been here forever. Yes, they are an eyesore. But if we're going to move into a residential area, that is a very, very bad idea. But I don't even think we need to talk about this until we have developed all the land downtown, and then maybe we'll move them. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question, there's actually 2 of them on the same topic here. The 2011 CIP has $4 million in surplus. The mayor wants to use it to reduce the event center payments. Some city councilors have other priorities. Give your opinion and a plan for how to use that fund. The second question states, what is your take on the $4 million being used for the event center and not infrastructure? We'll start that with Dean Karski.
$4 million prepaid on our, or not having to bond for our event center doesn't increase what we're going to be spending on the event center, but $4 million over 22 years at an assumed 5% interest rate probably is close to $200,000 a year in saved interest payments that we don't have to make, money that will go back into our budget that can be used for infrastructure. $4 million, $2.5 million saved in interest. It makes sense to do that if we can get consensus from the council. If not, there are some projects that need work in our infrastructure. We have some roads, specifically in the Northwest District, that I think should be, that were on the CIP budget. Promises were made 8 and 10 years ago, and they fell off the budget. And my job right now is to make sure that those promises are kept for getting 41st Street and other infrastructure needs taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you. Kermit Staggers.
Well, the $4 million, I would prefer not having it going to the event center because I'm concerned that this might be the beginning of moving monies around, and that eventually that this money could contribute to actually spending more than $115 million on the event center. And that's something we cannot do. We have to keep that promise. Instead, the $4 million, hey, we can find a lot of use here in Sioux Falls for the $4 million. Just take a look at some of our streets. Some of those are in really bad straits, especially Old Orchard Trail. That has to be corrected. So the priority here should be on the infrastructure that all citizens use. And consequently, we could also improve the water pipes in the southwestern part of Sioux Falls. those are deteriorating too. So infrastructure has to be the #1 priority of the City of Sioux Falls in spending this $4 million. And then we separate that, keep that $115 million separate.
Thank you. Dee Knudsen.
I would be very comfortable using that $4 million to repay, start paying down some of the debt on the event center. That would be, that'd be very easy for me to support. On the other hand, I would like to stress that, again, that's just the mayor's recommendation. The buck stops with the city council, and if the majority of the city councilors want to use that $4 million for parks improvement or to build an archival center for the museum or to work on arterial roads, again, that is merely a recommendation by the mayor. The city council works very hard on its capital improvement plan. There's a long wish list that we always wish that we could do, and we never ever have enough revenue. And so again, the majority of the city council will make that decision on how to use that $4 million.
Thank you. Corey Butemeyer.
Well, this issue just came up last night at the council meeting. It's kind of ironic that we have it. I have two options that I was thinking on how to use this money. One of them, it was kind of discussed about the water lines. We had the water mains break this spring and had a lot of flooding downtown, and we could use this money to fix those or at least evaluate where we're having these water main issues. I mean, it's unacceptable to have water main breaks in the central part of Sioux Falls when you know that these areas are deteriorating a little bit because it's an older section of town. The other option I have is not using it to pay off the bonds for the event center, but some of our other outstanding bonds, our higher interest bonds that we've had for 10 years on the books. Let's get those off the books so we can bring down the debt, not just for the event center, but for other projects that we've used that have been sitting on the books for years. That, I mean, it just makes sense. Even in your household budget, you always pay off your high debt loan first, and then you work on everything else. And that's my ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. James Eisbrand.
Yeah, I mentioned last week at a forum that I wouldn't be in favor of spending that $4 million towards the event center. I would like to see it go towards infrastructure. I think what Dee mentioned earlier is, mentioned you have to prioritize projects. It's not every day we have an extra $4 million. So I would, meet with the other 7 council members and figure out, the priority and see what Mark Cotter and some of the directors think that maybe we need to step up and spend some money on something to get that taken care of now while we're afforded this opportunity with this extra money. I mean, right now, with the bond, with the event center, there's a lot of bonds out there right now. And if I had one word of caution for the budget, and even when you have extra money, it's like we need to keep an eye on how much bonds we have out there right now.
Thank you. The next question is on the event center. What will you do to ensure the event center will be a successful addition to Sioux Falls? And another question asks, what do you think of remodeling the arena for an indoor swimming pool rather than having 2 event centers? We'll start that with Kermit Staggers.
Well, when it comes to the event center, we have to have a mindset where we want to make this profitable. Oftentimes in city government, you have the view that, well, these kind of event centers can never be profitable. Just take a look at other cities that are losing millions and millions of dollars, so we just simply have to accept that fact. So consequently, my view is that we've got to change the mindset. We want to make it profitable. Now, in making it profitable, what we have to do is to have city council members making sure that we have good contracts with developers, with people that are also going to be operating concession stands and so forth. We should also be making sure that we never have a situation where we're automatically willing to give a subsidy. Because if you have that kind of mindset, guess what? You're going to have a subsidy. So we have to make sure that we have people on the city council, in the administration, that want to make money off of this.
Thank you. Dee Knudsen.
I actually have full confidence that the new event center will be a very successful operation. I just can't wait until the doors open on that building. Again, as you have read and heard through for the last few months, the city is actually, I think, a little bit surprised about the incredible interest by businesses as far as naming rights are concerned and so forth. And again, we have people, we have consultant who is very experienced in this way, that is working hard for the city to get the best deal it can on all of those options. Again, I do not think that the event center will just make stacks of money every day. I do not. It, however, will be a city-owned business. I believe it will be very, very responsibly run. It will be managed by some firm, whatever the city decides. And again, I don't look at, I look at these as management fees, not subsidies. And my time is up.
Thank you. Corey Butemeyer.
All right, I have a little bit different take. I don't think the event center will make money, but as long as it breaks even, I think that's quite acceptable, as long as we're not throwing money down the hole. The way that I feel that should happen is make sure it is booked all the time. Right now with the arena, it's empty many days out of the year. Well, why is that? I mean, we need to get some events in there, an aggressive management company to say, hey, come to Sioux Falls, promote, bring in some events, and we can break even. On the second part of that question, I don't think the arena can be feasibly turned into an indoor swimming pool, because you're going to have two different types of events. You're going to have the large events at the event center, and you're going to have just your smaller events and your conventions at the arena. I think both are sustainable as long as the management company works on promoting both facilities equally as hard. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you. James Eisbrand.
Amy, can you just do me a favor and repeat that question?
Give me a moment here. Here we go. What will you do to ensure the event center will be a successful addition to Sioux Falls? And what do you think of remodeling the arena for an indoor swimming pool rather than having two event centers?
Well, I wouldn't want to remodel the arena for a swimming pool. I think we're going to use that for a convention center. I would want to take a look at that idea. I mean, as far as the event center and what I would do as a council member, I mean, that's just a gold mine. That's just such potential for, I mean, we've never had a facility that could even allow us to have events out there with a large 12,000 seat venue. I just think it's going to be so exciting, and it's important that everyone in Sioux Falls get behind it, and I think we can make it work. People come to Sioux Falls right now for a variety of reasons. They come to here to shop, bank, medical. I mean, if we have another event, that's just gravy on top. You know, 6 out of 10 people come here from out of town to an event anyway and want to spend their dollars and enjoy Sioux Falls. And, you know, like I'd mentioned before, I want to make it like a hub, you know, that event center would be a hub, and everything would come in there, and then we could go, you know, different parts of the city for whatever they wanted to do, downtown, shopping, you know, the sculpture walk, or go out to the Empire Mall. There's just so many opportunities. I think the event center, if we work hard, it'll be successful.
Thank you. Dean Karski.
No, I don't see the arena becoming an indoor swimming pool. How do we make the event center successful? It's from day one. We have to build excitement around it, and that's going to take some time. It's going to take the work of our CVB, and it's going to take a good management company bringing in performances that are going to bring people to Sioux Falls. How do we get a good management company? We have to write a solid contract. We have to let the management company know what we expect, how the revenues are going to be shared or distributed, and we have to write it so that it's in the green. We cannot be managing this facility in the red. The people that are, what's going to make it successful, what's a good metric? The people coming in from out of town, spending their money in Sioux Falls, eating at our restaurants, staying at our hotels, shopping in our stores, enjoying our parks. That's what's going to make the Sioux Falls Event Center a success, and I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Our next question. What can you do to increase recycling in Sioux Falls? And we'll start with Dee Knutson.
I'm a strong supporter of increasing recycling in Sioux Falls. I recycle easily, without any effort, more than 50% of our waste, again, without any effort. So our goal is still lower than I wish. As far as increasing recycling, I think that we need to continue as a city, first of all, and make certain that there are recycling containers or, you know, in every city facility. First of all, I mean, I think it's important that we practice what we preach, and I know that we're doing better and better at that. Also, I'd like to see more efforts made even with schools to see if, you know, we can inspire our children in our schools, maybe through contests or whatever, working with the city to understand the seriousness of this issue. Again, recycling is not a feel-good, hippie kind of thing. It's very much dollar and cents. And I know no one who wants a landfill in their backyard. And so this is very much an economical issue for me.
Thank you. Corey Butemeyer.
This is an interesting subject for me. I disagree with Dee on this one. I don't think the city should mandatorily make anybody do anything, especially recycle. I don't recycle. I don't choose to recycle, and I don't think the city is in the city's purview to tell a citizen, you have to do this for the betterment of everybody else. That should be a choice of your own free will. If you choose to, that's fantastic. If you don't choose to, that's fine too. I know the landfill, we are running out of space, but it's not like it's going to go out tomorrow or in the next 10 years. Yes, it will eventually fill up, but I guess I don't want to say we'll cross that road when we get there, but I don't want a government telling me what to do with my garbage. End of story. Thank you.
Thank you. James Eisbrand.
I think that 20% recycling, I've talked to 4 of our local garbage haulers, and they do above and beyond that. That's the best part of the feasibility study they like, is the fact that, Sioux Falls is doing what they can because we have that regional landfill. So 20%, I mean, to me, that's almost a low number, but all the garbage haulers and the residents I talk to, they don't mind recycling, and they don't want to have to build another landfill. So, recycling, that's just, that's kind of a nationwide thing. Of course, Sioux Falls, we like to be progressive and keep our city clean. So to me, recycling, it's just, it's something so easy, and the garbage haulers make it easy. They have separate receptacles to put your recyclables in, and I know one of the garbage haulers gives you points, and you get like coupons for how much weight and recyclable items you have. Recycling is just, that's the wave of the future. We need to do it for keep Sioux Falls clean and for our children's resources in the future. So I support recycling.
Thank you. Dean Karski.
Landfills have a definite capacity, and they're not cheap to build. So we need to be very aware of what our landfill's capabilities are, how long it's going to last, and encouraging recycling is very important. What can the City Council do? Well, we're going to have to set the standards, which we did in the last year for what we expect from our garbage haulers. The garbage haulers have to have the ability to encourage and educate their people that they have as customers. So we need to be able to enable them to do that with their clients that they're hauling garbage from. Personally, we've recycled since, well, I think before we moved to Sioux Falls. In our home. In our office recently, I took it upon myself to visit with my landlord of our office building about setting up recycling bins for paper, and so that we'd have less going into the landfill just from our office. So I take it very personally. I guess we just need to set the standards and enable the companies to get to those standards, and I think we're on the right track.
Thank you. Kermit Stegers.
Yes, when you talk about increasing recycling, there's one thing you shouldn't do, and that's set these artificial quotas, and that's what the city is doing right now. Because these artificial quotas are really scaring many garbage haulers. I remember there was this one garbage hauler at a meeting, a rather small garbage hauler, who is concerned that with these artificial quotas, it's possible he might not be able to meet some of those. And so the result is, after 3 years, he could possibly be put out of business by the city. We don't want that kind of stuff happening in Sioux Falls. What are we going to do about increasing recycling? Well, very simply, it's education, education, education. It's encouraging the garbage haulers to realize, hey, you can actually make money off of garbage. Now, you can't do it for every piece of garbage, but for much of the garbage you can. So that's what we should be doing, striving for education, not establishing artificial quotas and scaring our garbage haulers.
Thank you. Our next question, there's at least 3 questions on this having to do with open meetings. How do you define the South Dakota open meeting law? In keeping city government more open, what specifically would you be more open about or keep the same? And do you agree with the recent Open Meetings Commission decision to reprimand the council for breaking open meeting laws? And if so, what would you do as a city councilor to ensure this doesn't happen again? So it's dealing with open meeting laws. And we will start with Corey Butemeyer.
Can you give me the second one, please?
Sure. In keeping city government more open, what specifically would you be more open about or keep the same?
Okay. Well, that's a lot in 3 questions. The first section of the South Dakota meeting law, that's a very vague law. I'm not even exactly sure what it means. I mean, I understand the gist of it. You know, you can't go into behind closed doors and discuss stuff without notifying the public. At the heart, that's a fantastic idea. Is it being done? Hardly. So that's it for that part. For B, I think the more open this government is, the better. I personally think it should be transparent. I would love to know what my councilors, what the mayor, what the governor, whatever, is doing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because they work for us. It's not the other way around. You work, the council works for the people, and you need to know what they're doing. On the reprimand part, that was shameful what happened, doing the executive session and coming out of executive session just doing whatever they want to. It was extremely shameful. I don't even think they should, personally, they should have executive session because I want to know what's going on. There shouldn't be any meetings behind closed doors, period.
Thank you. James Eisbrand.
Well, I think hopefully we've learned from our mistake. Open meetings, transparency, it's easy to talk about, but I mean, if I was on the council, I would make sure, you know, looking back on what happened to the current council, that we try to, you know, encourage the public to come to meetings and make sure that if we have an executive session that we relay to them the things that we can, that what we talked about. And as far as, you know, like I say, specifically, you got to try to do better. I mean, we made a mistake, and we'd have to do better. And you know, I agree with the sanction, and I just know that we'll never know why the city clerk was fired. But I mean, sometimes there's personnel reasons that things can't be said. But looking in hindsight, like I say, moving forward, I think everybody in the council today would try much harder, and not, you know, it was an embarrassment or a mistake, but those things happen, and the best thing to do is move forward, and I think that's what they're doing.
Thank you. Dean Karski.
All the business of the Sioux Falls city government should be conducted in the open in a very transparent manner, with 2 exceptions: personnel matters and contract negotiations. There's just some things that cannot be released to the public, just for the safety of people and for the ability of the city to conduct the business that needs to be conducted. So, yeah, we have to be here. We have to keep things out in the open. Do I agree with the decision? It's not up for me to agree with it or disagree with it. They made their decision, and it's up for me to abide by the rules of the Open Meeting Commission and to make sure we don't make the same mistake twice. I accept responsibility for what happened. I apologize. We were going on what we thought was reliable judgment of our attorney, and I would have taken the same action, not knowing now what I knew then, I guess would be a good way to put it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Kermit Stakers.
It's important to keep in mind that this reprimand for violating the open meetings law, this is the second one for the city. And of course, what's the purpose of the open meetings law? It's to prevent secrecy. That's what it's designed to do. Now, oftentimes the excuse is given, well, we violated it because, oh, it's just so vague, it's so vague. But just think about it for a moment. What happens usually is that there's a deliberate attempt to maintain things in secret. And that's what happened here with Deborah Owen. The purpose of going into executive session and then making a decision informally, then coming out and saying, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to pass a motion to do what we decided in executive session. A deliberate attempt to keep all of this secret. And so I am very happy with the decision of the Open Meetings Commission. There is some kind of justice that was brought here with their decision in regard to Deborah Owen.
Thank you. Dee Knudsen.
Make no mistake, there is not one city councilor serving today or before who does not favor open government. There was absolutely no intention by any one of them to deliberately work secretly. I mean, that is nonsense, to say the least. Again, as Councilor Karski said, there are three reasons that the City Council by state law can go into executive session: personnel issues, legal issues, and contract negotiation. And again, unfortunately, the City Council erred according to the Open Meetings Commission. Again, they took the advice of the city attorney, who had consulted with the top law enforcement person on our state, the Attorney General. And again, as far as the future is concerned, this will not happen again.
Thank you. Excuse me. We'll move on to our next question. What is the best growth opportunity for Sioux Falls, and how will you personally work to bring that opportunity to fruition? And we'll start with James Eisbrand.
I think the opportunities in Sioux Falls for growth are just endless. I mean, right now we have such a great medical community, and with Sanford doing their research and all the educational facilities. I mean, I know I graduated from Southeast Tech. I was, a non-trad, went back to school, got a degree, and improved myself, and now I work at Daktronics. So I'm just so thankful that there's these educational places, University Center, Killian College. There's just so many places that, affordable education. People can go back to school part-time, try to, improve themselves. And so I think our greatest growth is our resources, people, young people, keeping people here in Sioux Falls, and economic development. Try to attract manufacturing, jobs, small business, places where these people can work and make a decent wage and enjoy raising their family here in Sioux Falls like I do. Growth, I mean, we're just growing every day. It's a wonderful community. I mean, you all know it. I know it. We were working real hard to keep it under control, but my time is up.
Thank you. Dean Karski.
When I think about growth opportunities, I think about good jobs that have wages that allow people to buy homes and buy cars and that type of thing. And when I look at where our opportunities lie, I see medical research obviously is just growing in our community, and we can expand on that. It's like Citibank opened up, then other credit card companies followed. Data centers. We have a great area for data centers just in the central part of the country, and we don't have a great exposure to a lot of natural disasters, so to put data centers here is great, some good paying jobs. Another one, biotechnology, kind of goes along with the medical research to encourage that type of growth, to companies to look at us, what we have with SDSU and our schools and the people that we have, our education centers in town, to work with those together to create these growth opportunities would be fantastic.
Thank you. Kermit Staggers.
Yes, Sioux Falls, we have to be really competitive with other communities in this region, plus throughout the country. We want to be a community where the entrepreneurial spirit is thriving. And to have an entrepreneurial spirit, we must focus on low taxes and also getting rid of unneeded regulation. So with that kind of entrepreneurial spirit, Sioux Falls is automatically going to be attracting more and more business to Sioux Falls. And in the process, of course, we're going to have more people coming here. We're going to have the building of homes, building of businesses. We're just going to continue to grow on and grow on and grow on. So the most important thing here is to make sure this entrepreneurial spirit continues with less taxes and unneeded regulations being done away with.
Thank you. Dee Knudsen.
I expect Sioux Falls to continue to grow in just huge ways every year. We just have so many great things going for us. I think it's very important that the City Council and the Mayor continue their great efforts working with the Sioux Falls Development Foundation to attract more high-quality businesses, to provide more jobs for our people, and of course at the same time we need to continue to provide quality of life improvements for those people that come to our city and look to see what we have to offer them when they move their businesses here.
Thank you. Corey Butemeyer.
Yes, I think the city growth for Sioux Falls is outstanding. We grow every single year, 4, 5, 6,000 people. Ways I think we do that is obviously promotion. We have a lot of young people who go away to college. They not just go to state, but they go to Iowa or Nebraska to go to school. I want to focus on bringing those young people back to South Dakota. Tell them, come back home, where you know the streets are safe, where you know that you're going to have good parks, you're going to have clean water, you're going to have all the amenities of life. You're not going to have to worry about high crime rates. You're not going to have to worry about dilapidated buildings. Come back to Sioux Falls, and the growth will just explode. They'll bring their families, they'll bring new jobs, and a new youthful vigor, which I think is desperately needed in Sioux Falls.
Thank you. And our last question tonight, talk about the relationship between the mayor and the council. And we'll start that with Dean Karski.
I guess the best way to start that would be to talk about how our charter dictates what the relationship is between the mayor and the council. And our charter says that our mayor is the administrator of our city, and the council is the check and balance. We are the legislators. We appropriate the budget. We are the ones that pass the ordinances. It's important to have a very good working relationship with the mayor. And by that I mean we have to agree on the vision for our city. We have to know what is important, what projects need to be completed, and we have to come to terms on what is going to be done to make our next budget process work well. I see our current council and our mayor working together well, and by that I mean there are disagreements, and that's important. And if we agreed on everything, we probably wouldn't be getting the job done the proper way. So it's important for us to agree and to disagree.
Thank you. Kermit Staggers.
Probably the most important thing is to have a respectful relationship between the mayor and the city council. The city council, according to the charter, is the policy-making body of the city. The mayor, of course, is involved in administering the ordinances that are passed by the Sioux Falls City Council. However, the history of the City Council is that it really doesn't make very much policy. When I was on the council, there was a survey that was done that indicated that maybe 5% of the ordinances and resolutions introduced was done by City Council members. The rest was done by the mayor and his administration. So what we have to do is to have more balance in city government, having the City Council assert itself even more in establishing policy. And also at the same time, of course, when we do have proposals coming from the administration, to really ask the tough questions. Is this the right thing for the city to do? Or also to be involved in tweaking what the administration wants to do. So we have to have more influence by the City Council.
Thank you. Dee Knudsen.
I think that it's essential for the mayor and the city council to have a very good working relationship. Again, there's no need at all or expectation by anyone for the city council to always agree with the mayor or vice versa. City councilors don't always agree among themselves, nor should they. I think it's also very important that we all remember that the same citizens elect city councilors and the mayor. And yes, the city council has a responsibility of setting policy and appropriating money, two huge, huge responsibilities. But after that is taken care of, it's very important. I mean, citizens expect the mayor and the city council to work together well and productively to move the city forward, and I look forward to doing that with Mayor Huther.
Thank you. Corey Buetmeyer.
My evaluation of the city and the mayor and the council working together is a little bit different. We've heard the mayor saying he wants to run the city sometimes like a corporation, like a business. Okay, he wants to run it like a business, then this is what I would say. He's the CEO. That's fine. Then I'm going to be the city council should be the board of directors. The board of directors looks out for every shareholder. Every shareholder is you, the citizens of Sioux Falls, the taxpayers. You can't let the CEO run ramshot over you, and I think that's the same way the council should be. You shouldn't let the mayor bully you, bully us, or anything else. You don't have to like each other to work together. And right now I see the mayor and the council working very well together because I think they like each other. But They don't have to like each other, and if we're going to be on there, we do need a check and balance, just like in every other form of government. There's got to be a check and a balance, and that's how I see the relationship working. Thank you.
Thank you. James Eisbrand.
Yeah, being on the city council, you know, I've been here for many meetings, and I've seen the last 4 mayors and now Mayor Huther, and you know, I think working together with the mayor as a council, you have to go with the person's strong points, and obviously Mayor Huther has a strong business background, and we have quite a few occupations that the city council members currently represent. And it's important that, you know, when you talk about issues, you know, ordinances and resolutions and making good policy and watching the budget and then thinking, you know, the council is like a check and balance with the mayor's office. It's kind of interesting, and it's what I call chemistry, and it's important that you have a good working relationship. And I think if I was elected, I would strive towards that. And you know, like say Dean said earlier, you agree to disagree. You can't always be right on every subject, but I would work hard to keep Sioux Falls moving forward and hopefully, you know, get some good results. And the best way to understand that is if, you know, how many people show up at the council meeting either agreeing or disagreeing with what you're trying to do.
Well, thank you. We appreciate these candidates who are participating in our civic process and running for City Council. In just a moment, we will continue our forum with candidates from the Southwest and Northeast districts. Again, the election is April 10th. Remember that you will also be voting for 3 amendments to the city charter and for Sioux Falls school board members. As we change the seating here for the candidates, I will briefly explain 3 amendments that you will be voting on. Amendment A is a proposed change that would delineate all powers the City of Sioux Falls may legally exercise under the state constitution and laws. The language regarding the city's powers is taken from the South Dakota Constitution, Article 9, Section 2. Amendment B is a proposed change that would combine 2 sections of the charter into one. It would also change the deadline for approval of the annual appropriation ordinance to September 30 of each year rather than October. State law requires the city finance director to certify the annual tax levy to the county auditor no later than October 1st. This currently results in a situation where the finance director must certify the annual tax levy to the county auditor before the tax levy has been established by the City Council. The proposed language change would require the annual appropriation ordinance, including the tax levy, to be approved prior to October 1st, thereby allowing the finance director to comply with state law. The proposed change would also change the timing of publication of budgets for proprietary and trust funds to be consistent with the publication of all other budgets. Amendment C is a proposed change that would grant the Sioux Falls Board of Ethics the jurisdiction to hear any complaints about any possible violations of law for conduct related to city elections. The city attorney currently has jurisdiction for these complaints. Sample ballots are posted at www.siouxfalls.org along with additional information on the amendment changes. There are copies of the information available here this evening as well. Again, this program is live on April 3rd. It will be rebroadcast on CityLink channel several times between now and April 10th. All right, now we will continue our forum with candidates from the Southwest and Northeast districts. Our candidates will have 2-minute introductions each, and as we present questions, they will each have 1 minute to respond, and there are no closing comments nor are there rebuttals. We are still looking for audience questions. For those of you here, there are note cards for you to write questions on. If you write your question down and hold it up, one of our runners will come and get it from you. And if you are watching live, please call 367-8080 or email clerks@siouxfalls.org with your questions. We remind you to turn your cell phones to silent, and if you need to hold a conversation, please do so outside of the room. We'll have introductory comments, and then we will follow the order in which the candidates appear on the ballot for each group. We will begin with Southwest candidates Kyle Vanderlinden, followed by Lindsay DiMatteo, Greg Jamison, and then Northeast District candidate Kenny Anderson Jr., and Nicole Wilson will not be with us this evening. So we will start with Kyle.
Hi, my name is Kyle Vanderlyn, and I am a resident of Sioux Falls for about 4 years here. I moved here to do a little, entrepreneurship, but landed in Fiserv, which is a banking solutions company, so I work as a data analysis. One thing that I'd like to provide to the City Council and the city in general is just a little bit of a diverse atmosphere. I think it is important that we get, the young involved in city government. That way we get all aspects of life to actually progress this city. So we don't lose the interest and we get special interests, or we have, not everybody represented well. So that's kind of the whole idea of me running. There's a lot of aspects that I'd like to provide as in the sense of our budget. I review our budget, I look at how we appropriate our dollars. And I think, it's important that we be transparent in that process, but again, I don't feel it has been. I feel like, our goal here should be to give the city the best return on their investment. So that's my goal, and I look for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Lindsay DiMatteo.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Lindsay DiMatteo. I'm 31 years old. I was born and raised here in Sioux Falls. I did leave to attend college and law school at Valparaiso University. Lived in Chicago for a couple years and then moved back here with my now husband, and we're raising a small family. I have one daughter, Isla. She's 17 months old. She's our little superhero. You'll hear me talk about her probably often if you know me. She was born 15 weeks early, so she was born weighing about a pound, and she's doing fantastic at this point, thanks to, of course, the great medical facilities we do have here in Sioux Falls. I am an attorney. I was with a firm for the first few years when I came back to Sioux Falls in 2007. Last June, I did open my own law firm, so I am a small business owner and learning how to be the copy fixer, the gopher, the person that has to do payroll, which of course only involves myself, and even that took me about 3 weeks. So I'm young. I'm encouraged to get involved in city government, and I think that I have what it takes for this town to regain confidence in its elected leaders again. I strongly believe in constitutionally limited government. I'm a fiscal conservative, and I vehemently want to reduce government overregulation of small business. And I hope I can do that for you. Thanks.
Thank you. Greg Jamieson.
Well, thank you. My name is Greg Jamieson, and thank you, the League of Women Voters and the Chamber of Commerce, for supporting this event tonight. I would like to recognize two members in the audience, two council members that I work with, Councilor Erpenbach and Councilor Aguilar. Thank you for joining us tonight. First and foremost, I've been married for 27 years, and my wife is in the audience, Beth, a huge influence in my life. She's sitting next to my parents, I suppose the second biggest influence in my life. I better say it in that order. I've got two grown children. I'm running for the City Council again because I've really enjoyed the past 4 years. I've learned a lot. I've met a lot of nice people. I've been involved in a lot of big decisions within our community, and that was the reason I got involved, was to be a part of our community. It's been delightful. It's been a privilege. I'm honored to be a part of the council. There are a lot of things left to do, though. And after serving 4 years, you kind of get tuned up. You're faster about the budget process. You're in tune to what the needs of the community probably are. And so I think the next 4 years will be a little more efficient for me. The learning curve is over. I look forward to the opportunity, and I would appreciate your support.
Thank you. Kenny Anderson, Jr.
Hello, my name's Kenny Anderson, Jr. I'm running for City Council Northeast District. I'm a lifelong resident of Sioux Falls, graduate of Washington High School, and at least they adopted me. I left at the beginning of my senior year and joined the Marine Corps. Then I came back to Sioux Falls. I've been all over about half of this world and never found a city like this. My grandparents moved here in 1928. They were told Sioux Falls was a welcoming city, a city that you could move to, grow a family, and enjoy life. And if you wanted a business, you could be successful. They raised 8 children here. Most of those children are now gone. I'm still here. But our family's love of this city has never died, and the city has always been very welcoming to my family. I joined the City Council so that I could help Sioux Falls become a better city than it even is today. And I feel that we are on the right track, as I have watched other cities go in decay. I feel that our affordable housing, our streets, our infrastructure are all things that need to be looked at, monitored, and if we need to increase revenues to be able to fix our infrastructure. I hope that as we move forward as a city, we are looking towards the future and making things better for new people moving to the city. We are always looking for businesses and also have an educated workforce here for business to look at our city and want to move here. I ask for your support April 10th for Northeast District. Thank you.
Thank you. We will start our first question with Lindsay DiMatteo. What can be done to make public transportation in Sioux Falls more attractive to citizens?
Thank you. Again, coming more probably from the few years living in Chicago, although I was not impressed with their political openness at all, I will say I was impressed by their public transportation system. You can live in a town like Chicago and not have to have a car. Obviously, that we're not quite there with all the space we have out here, but I would like to see more bus stops. Not only more bus stops, but I think there needs to be better shelters over those bus stops. I know that sounds kind of silly, but the bottom line is if you're going to have to stand out in the rain next to a post and wait for the bus, it's not going to be attractive to you no matter what. So I do think working on our busing system will help everyone involved, including our less fortunate citizens that can't afford a car. And because they do live in a city like this where they can't necessarily walk everywhere, the busing system is important. So I would just work on making that more accessible to people and more attractive. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg Jameson.
Well, we as a council have been working on how to make the public transportation system essentially more efficient, more effective, and I suppose at the end more attractive to the public. One of those methods is to just improve the ability for riders to get on the bus, whether there's more places, and actually changing the whole system from a wheel and spoke type setup where people travel out to different parts of the city over to what we would refer to as the grid system, where in essence the idea is we need to make the transportation system efficient for the core of our city, probably where most users are. And once we establish a good foundation, because you can catch a bus here and get to there in a timely manner, then we can expand that out through the rest of the city. But it's a very expensive part of our budget, and it's not easy, but we're working on it currently as a council.
Thank you. Kenny Anderson, Jr.
How to improve transportation in Sioux Falls. I will echo the statements of Councilman Jameson about the grid system. We definitely need to take a look at how our transportation system is working. And there's very many challenges upcoming in the future with transportation as our city grows. One of the things that has been explained to us is when the city does reach 200,000, we lose federal funding. So that is something that in our future planning, we really have to take a look at affordable and efficient ways to do public transportation in Sioux Falls, and no option should be left off the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Kyle Vanderlinden.
You know, one thing that I think of when when wanting to be on city council is to be innovative, and in that sense towards public transportation, I would think of more of a modernization of public transportation. It's not just, I mean, of course the grid system is important and our limit of 200,000 people, but at the same time, you know, how can we provide a service that's not only attractive, efficient, but yet, you know, a service that all individuals can use. You know, currently it's not that way, and you know that's a long-term goal. So it'd be nice to see, you know, a little bit more of the public transportation be exploited, so that more users can use it and are apt to use it. And I guess that's it. You know, it's a 21st century. I think it's important that we modernize.
Thank you. Our next question is on zoning ordinances. It says zoning ordinances regarding urban ag are currently being revised. What are your thoughts on keeping live animals such as chickens and goats in residential areas? And we will start with Greg Jameson.
Well, having served 4 years on the council, the urban ag conversation is something brand new to me. I've never had people in the past ever ask me about having chickens in their yards or how many goats it's okay to have, and I guess it's been interesting that way. You know, currently we have a lot of rules and regulations that keep track and control how many goats and how many other animals we can have in our city. I guess, you know, I've been a little concerned about this procedure moving forward, that we're creating a lot of rules and regulations on a lot of gray area in our ordinances. But currently we have a lot of ordinances on the book that manage this process for us. A lot of nuisance regulations that will prevent somebody from having 300 rabbits or 16 goats in their yard or 50 chickens. So we've got these rules in place. I'm not overly zealous about the task force and their efforts, but we'll discuss it later.
Thank you. Kenny Anderson, Jr.
Urban ag is something is very new to us. I've seen chicken coops around 57th and Marion Road. I've seen a potbelly pig in the northeast end of Sioux Falls. So we do have our pets and animals within the city. I think that as long as that is reasonable and does not interfere with your neighbors' lives and operation, I think that some type of regulation is accordingly right to be doing. I am glad that they are doing these type of meetings so that the public does get to have their input on this. But as far as any changes that are coming down from this committee and these meetings, I am waiting to see what does come down to make any decision from there.
Thank you. Kyle Vanderlinden.
You know, I think it's important that we do take those precautions to, as our city grows, that we listen to the people and their complaints, and we can keep up with our code enforcement on that aspect. But at the same time, you know, is it a place where we can take a stance to impede on a person's life? So I'd say, you know, as far as a continuance, I mean, it's a work in progress right now. So it'd be nice to see, you know, what the task force comes up with. But as far as code regulation, I mean, I think it's important that we work with landowners instead of slap regulations on them.
Thank you. Lindsay DiMatteo.
Thank you. I think the task force is reactionary and unnecessary. As far as the urban ag situation is concerned, I think that people should be free to do what they would like in their yards to a degree, and that degree, of course, is set by ordinances that are already on the books. So again, as a member of City Council, I think my first duty to my constituents is, when a proposal is brought in front of us or an issue is brought in front of us, is to simply ask, is this even something that should even be under our purview? Should we be spending the time and resources on this? And again, on the task force, I don't think that that there should be. It's creating unnecessary law. So I think what needs to be looked at, actually, though, is if people are making valid complaints based on ordinances that are being violated under the nuisance laws, are those complaints not being heard? I don't think the first step is to all of a sudden just assemble a task force. Let's make sure that when those people make those complaints under valid laws, that they have help and they have answers.
Thank you. Our next question is on the railroad relocation. What do you think of the railroad relocation and proposed removal to another part of Sioux Falls? And would you support a new alternative that's being considered to use the dual tracks near 14th and Cliff as the rail siding versus southeast Sioux Falls? This alternative would block traffic for extended periods of time on a major north-south route through our city. So the railroad relocation, and we will start that with Kenny Anderson, Jr.
Thank you. We have been working on the railroad relocation since about 2005. The environmental study has been completed or almost completed, and the paperwork is to be turned in very soon. But as far as the railroad relocation, I do have concerns, and those concerns have to be answered before we can move forward. Number one is the federal transportation bill. There's been a 90-day extension to that transportation bill, and it looks like the federal government could actually pass a transportation bill. They are looking for earmarks to make up $1 trillion. We have $36 million of earmarks sitting downtown. I want to make sure that when we move forward that we do this carefully and that we make sure that the federal funding that we have is in place and secure. If not, I would have a very hard time supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you. Kyle Vanderlinden.
You know, when we talk about earmarks and what it's intended for, I think it's important that we consult the city and their aspect. I know it can be an economic growth for the city and downtown area, but at the same time, you know, what are the effects on the citizens? And as far as where we're at in this stage and the news that was released today, I mean, I just think we're too far behind to be able to accept this earmark. And I mean, if we can get it done, I think we should push. It's probably going to get done before I would be in office, so I don't have huge say on it. But as far as, you know, utilizing that money, I think it's important. It's there for us. The Congress worked hard to get it there for us. But at the same time, you know, we need to consider the effects of it. You know, if we have to move the railroad to the 14th Street and have the dual yard there, I think that's a feasible possibility. But at the same time, the alternative is on the southeast side, and I just can't stand by that. So that's where I stand.
Thank you. Lindsay D. Mateo.
Thank you. I'm vehemently opposed at this point to using the federal, actually just to moving the rail switching yard at this point under these circumstances. Number one, as a strict constructionist of the Constitution and a fiscal conservative, I don't think that it's the federal taxpayers' job to provide Sioux Falls, for example, with our list of wants and desires. Just as I think all of you would be upset if some guy from Wisconsin showed up asking each of you for $2 because they want to put a fountain downtown. Yes, it's federal money that's already here, but it's not free money. Federal money is our money. It's the guy's money in Arizona, et cetera. So just from that ideological standpoint, I'm vehemently opposed to it. I also say don't use our taxpayer money to facilitate it because we already know the $35 million won't get us probably even halfway there anyway. I think that these 13 magical acres that they want to fill up with businesses, I say work on helping some of the dilapidated buildings we have downtown, work on filling some of the space we have downtown, like Phillips to the Falls, where we spend a lot of money, and send the money back.
Thank you. Greg Jameson.
Well, first off, the plan was and is to use the $36 million to get the job done. I support that. I think moving that line, so switching yard out of downtown would be a great improvement for our downtown and for our city first. Now, the plan as it's becoming known is going to require much more money than that. And in fact, in a short order here, we may lose that $36 million. Then it all changes because the land that would be freed up downtown is not enough to generate enough money to pay for the removal of the tracks. So therefore, the rest of the citizens would have to pay for that improvement of downtown. That plan doesn't work. It's a downtown problem. It's not a southeast problem. I'm not in favor of creating a southeast problem just to prevent a downtown problem. The city has grown up around the railroad system, will continue to grow, and whether we move the tracks or not, Sioux Falls will be just fine.
Thank you. Our next question. Improvement requires change. What are you going to change to improve our city's future? And we'll start this one with Kyle Vanderlinden.
You know, one thing that comes to mind, and especially from my concept of moving here, you know, I have a 6-year-old son, and I like the idea of you know, community involvement and family involvement in the community. So I think it's important that we have our focus on the two main aspects of government of what we can provide for its citizens, and that's infrastructure and parks and recreation. I'm going to stay off that subject for now. I think, you know, it's important that we focus on that. That's my main goal, is to improve funding for that so that we do get, you know, a better, efficient city, whether it be by lights, whether it be by roads, whether it be by water lines, et cetera. But one other thing, you know, I think that we can take an example of is the idea of having young professionals in the city. I think that's important for long-term growth, and any economist would agree that that's the most highest benefactor to economic growth. So I think one idea to provide and utilize from my aspect would be to establish, you know, a sense of a young professionals organization that we can work with the Chamber of Commerce, where we can work with business, et cetera, to move forward. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Lindsay DiMatteo.
Thank you. One thing I could do to change, at least on my small part as being a representative of the Southwest District, to improve our city is to direct some of the attention, focus, and excitement away from focusing solely on the downtown. I think a lot of people in this town, not just in the Southwest District, but I would say especially in the Southwest District, but in all districts, have felt a little bit disenfranchised for quite a while with all the focus on downtown. I think our downtown is beautiful. I think the people have done, the downtown organizations have done a great job compared to what it was 5, even 10 years ago. It looks fantastic. But there's more city out there that we need to focus on, and I would like to see the focus being on neighborhoods. I grew up in Kingswood area. It's a beautiful neighborhood. I'm a little concerned that all we're doing are building cookie-cutter houses, and those people in those neighborhoods, like in the Northwest District and the Southwest District, they don't have parks. They don't have something that makes them a neighborhood, which if you have pride in your neighborhood, you have pride in your city. I would like to see the focus go that way.
Thank you. Greg Jameson.
Improving Sioux Falls, you know, this is like tweaking good or tweaking great. I mean, we've got a lot of great things going on in our city, so it's a lot of tweaking. You know, changing, the first thing you want to make sure you do is you never forget your hindsight. It's 2020. We've learned a lot over the history of our city. We've had mistakes, and we fixed them. I suppose, you know, one of the best things we can do is just continue to improve our city every chance we can. Infrastructure is one of those keys. If we don't maintain our infrastructure, we'll lose the rest. And there's never been enough money to have all the great streets we want in our city, to have them as smooth as we would all hope they would be. There's never been enough money. So what I've been trying to do at every chance I can, I've been trying to find a dollar here, a dollar there to reinvest in that infrastructure. Those little changes, I suppose, will make a difference in the future.
Thank you. Kenny Anderson, Jr.
Thank you. One of the responsibilities of the City Council is setting policy. Policy creates an atmosphere that encourages new business and existing businesses to grow. That will attract younger people to our city. Getting them good jobs, well pay. Those are things that we can work as a council, working with the Development Foundation, working with the Chamber of Commerce. We can make these things even better in our city. Funding infrastructure and developing and reinvesting in older neighborhoods is another thing that will help our city. I feel that that is another issue that still needs to be encouraged and invested in. And then working on making sure that our education system and that our workforce is ready for these new businesses and the next big thing that might happen in this country, so that when those businesses are looking for a place to be, we can show them Sioux Falls. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Our next question. The 2011 CIP has $4 million in surplus. The mayor wants to use it to reduce the event center payments. Some city councilors have other priorities. Give your opinion and a plan for how to use that fund. And the second question says, what is your take on the $4 million being used for the event center and not for infrastructure? And we will start that with Lindsay DiMatteo.
Thank you. I disagree with the mayor's suggestion or desire to use that towards the event center. I think that the $4 million needs to be given, needs to be used towards infrastructure, but I think specifically, you know, I can't help but make it an issue because it's been an issue for us and for a lot of our residents, but with our plumbing, the city's plumbing, our pipes, they're old. There's some that I think the last study came out, you know, nearing 100 years old. The problem is usually we only have about $1 million every year to deal with those. So of course, because we have limited funds, it's always reactionary. It's, oh, that pipe burst, let's go fix it. With, I think, an extra $4 million, we might be able to stave off and maybe prevent leaks instead of just reacting to them when they happen. But I do think our Public Works Department has been doing a good job with what they have, and I think that this $4 million would help them do even better.
Thank you. Greg Jameson.
Well, the $4 million has become kind of a contentious issue between the administration and perhaps even myself directly, but the mayor's proposal, the administration's proposal to use it instead of borrowing more money on the taxable bonds that will be issued for the event center. That's a fair plan. It really is. It's a fair plan. The problem is the event center was passed with a plan just recently that's supported by the public of borrowing 100% of that building and using those proceeds to pay for the event center. The $4 million comes out of money that we've saved on bidding other projects. And instead of taking every available dollar to invest in the event center, that $4 million needs to be reinvested in our community and infrastructure and other needs. Because before we know it, it'll be harder and harder for us to find dollars to fund those other infrastructure things like roads, parks, and other things that we enjoy in our community. So I disagree with the plan.
Thank you. Kenny Anderson, Jr.
Well, Greg took the words right out of my mouth. But first thing I look at is, where did these dollars come from? These dollars came from our CIP. They came from construction projects. They should be used on construction projects. Our event center, the plan for that, the financing plan for that is already in place, and let's let it work. If we do get extra money from the naming rights, maybe we'll look at that and see what we can do with that money. But this $4 million should be used for infrastructure work inside the City of Sioux Falls. We need to do this. We need to get caught back up. There are areas we are behind, and we need to work on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Kyle Vanderlinden.
You know, I have two ideas for this, and both of them probably would be shot down on the current city council if I'm not there. And these are my two ideas here. You know, our debt has increased over the past 3 years under the current council, 11%. You know, we're at a debt amount of $15 million, roughly around $15 million. I think it'd be nice to have that money put towards that debt. That way we can pay down our debt and move forward as a city. I think it's important, like Kenny said, that we look at where it came from, and it is from saving money from projects. So instead of reinvesting in more projects, I think it's important that we pay down our debt. Second would be to analyze our stoplights in the city. You know, there's companies all across the United States that can come in and analyze our stoplights and improve the flow of traffic, and I know in my area of town it's pretty hard to get around. So I think that's one of my key focuses on infrastructure, so I think that's one way that we could spend that money back and reinvest in the community.
Thank you. Our next question. What is the plan to reconstruct the alleys? There's always a street plan. What is the alley plan? And we'll start with Greg Jameson.
Well, I know in the past that there's been an effort to look at those alleys, and especially the Pettigrew Heights area. I think the community, the Pettigrew Heights neighborhood, worked with the city Public Works Department to improve its lighting throughout some of those alleyways. I'm actually not very familiar with any dollars that are set aside to improve the alleys within our community. It's probably a a spot that we've just not considered as a high need. So I guess we'd have to just take a closer look at it.
Thank you. Kenny Anderson, Jr.
At one time, the city did have a plan for alleys. They were paving them, mostly in the north end. That plan did go to the wayside. Last year, I did have a couple calls on plowing alleys, actually, for snow. And that's when I found out a little bit more about our alleys. But in our older neighborhoods, we're looking at cleaning up alleys, getting them more lit, helping to reduce crime. It has been a proven fact that this will help. And as far as any other plans, as far as for improving other alleys within the city, I've heard of none. Thank you.
Thank you. Kyle Vanderlinden.
You know, when we talk about alleys, I don't really have that problem on the Southwest District. We don't see a lot of those needs. But as far as my perspective of what we can better utilize in those neighborhoods is you know, I'm agreeing with these guys here. You know, I think it's important that we have the lighting in alleys so that, you know, people feel safe at night. And of course, that's why we don't build alleys anymore, is because of safety concerns and traffic concerns. So, you know, I think that it's important that we listen to the citizens in this case and follow by their responses. That's it.
Thank you. Lindsay DiMatteo.
Well, like Kyle, I'm a little at a disadvantage since we're not on the council. We're not privy to any plans, but it sounds like there really aren't any. So I guess I'll just opine as to my opinions on it. In speaking with other city council members, including Greg Jamieson, I think there's potentially a question of whether or not the alleys are public or private roadways and how much the city can do. But in speaking of keeping crime down, as we know, a lot of alleys are in older neighborhoods, and a lot of those older neighborhoods are in the downtown area, and there have been some actually, I think, a beating, I don't remember if the gentleman passed away or not, that occurred within the last year in a dark alley. So if we're able to do something about it, I would like to see first and foremost that those alleys are lit, just because it just would keep everybody a lot safer that have to deal with those neighborhoods that have them.
Thank you. We'll move on to our next question. Did the current city council handle the recent city clerk firing acceptably, and how would you as a councilor have dealt with an issue made so public? A second question asks, do you agree with the recent Open Meetings Commission decision to reprimand the council for breaking open meeting laws? We'll start with Kenny Anderson, Jr.
In the handling of the releasing of the city clerk, I think that the council and the city attorney tried to follow the rules of the open meeting laws. There were some mistakes made. What I would suggest on this is that, and I've suggested this before, is that we review this policy on how the city council would relieve one of their employees. I feel that this was the first time it ever happened. So, you know, the people that made the decisions up to the point where the council made their decisions, I think that they do need to be reviewed. We need to come up with a policy on how to remove any personnel that are an employee of the city council so that we do not have these issues again in the future. As far as the reprimand from the Open Meetings Commission, we have accepted as a council that reprimand, and we do take it very seriously. And I feel in the future we will work very hard, whether it's this council or new people, that it doesn't happen again. Thank you.
Thank you. Kyle Vanderlinden.
You know, I do agree with the reprimand. One thing that I'd like to note here is, you know, city leaders are expected to have the mental capacity to question the authority. And I think in this case, you know, you can have somebody standing up and pointing a finger at you and telling you what to do, and the aspect that I'd like to provide is to stand up and point the finger back. I think it's important that each individual on the council and as an elected official in the city government, that you take the initiative, and it's not just accepting it and being a rubber stamp for an administration. It's more or less being able to stand up for what you believe is right, and that's being ethical and making decisions based off the best interest of others, not just yourself.
Thank you. Lindsay DiMatteo.
Thank you. I agree with the reprimand to the extent that I think that you always need to err on the side of openness in government. As far as legally speaking, I wasn't involved in, what advice was or was not given or was not followed by the city attorney to the council. So do I even know if the firing of Deborah Owen was done correctly? I don't know. But I think the appearance of impropriety was clear. I think all of the counselors looked uncomfortable when they were making the decision. So I think, if they didn't outright know they were doing something wrong, they definitely had a feeling that something wasn't going correctly. So, and as far as Deborah Owen herself is concerned, I guess as a hopeful future city councilor, I was sorry to see someone go who has been a strong advocate for a strong council and an informed council. So I just think that, again, always err on the side of openness. And so in that way, I do agree with the reprimand. And I don't think it was the first time. I think it was the second time. So obviously the city government here needs to pay closer attention to what they're doing.
Thank you. Greg Jameson.
Well, this probably brings up one of the most important topics that I've had to deal with on the council. But more importantly, if anything, it talks about hindsight. After going through the process, having been on the council and having sat in this chamber and done what we've done, absolutely we would do it differently. We could do it better. Should we have been smarter about it? Absolutely. I'm certainly taking it very serious that we were reprimanded by the Open Meetings Commission. I believe it's probably the right reprimand. If you watch that meeting online, as you all can do, we really weren't clear to the public about what we were doing. We need to be better at that, and we will. And it's based on going through it. And we as a couple of counselors have gone through that, but as the public now, you've seen it. And if you become elected, you'll know not what to do. And the firing of Deborah Owen could have been done in a whole different way. We chose a route that won't happen again.
Thank you. Our next question. The Charter Revision Commission recently tabled a proposed amendment to expand the role of the mayor. What are your thoughts about this proposal? And we will start with Kyle Vanderlinden.
This is what my perspective is what's wrong with government. We have this system where we think that we need more authority. I heard Corey earlier say that our mayor thinks that he's a CEO. This is not the case. This is not a business. We shouldn't run our government like a business. This is a government that was created for the people, by the people. This isn't a corporation that we can ask for more responsibility and say, I want more control because I can do more with more control. And I think it's important to look at that and comprehend that in the sense that, we can't let government fall. And this is a way to create, the negative behavior that can ultimately be the end of the government. I mean, you look at governments throughout the past, thousands of years. They last 200, 300 years, and we're about at that time. So I think it's important that we listen to the people. It's not government taking control of the city. It's the city doing what's in the best interest for themselves. And I think it's important that we have somebody on city council that can recognize that. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you. Lindsay DiMatteo.
Thank you. I'm against the proposal to increase the powers of the mayor. The council is the check and balance for the mayor, and I think they serve that important role. I would like to see the council provide more of a check and balance, and that doesn't necessarily mean being contrary always just for the sake of arguing, but it does mean asking the important questions. And my opponent, Greg Jameson, was interviewed by KDLT back in October of 2010, and he said that he was going to stand up and ask those important questions, and that was around the time of the event center situation. And that's great, but the problem is that was more than 2 years into his term. So I've heard people talk about hindsight, and I'd really like to see foresight being used a little bit here now. We've been able to see what the council's done over the last 4 years, and I think the mayor needs to have someone, whether it's this mayor or mayors down the road, needs to have individuals there that are looking out for the constituents, and they will ask the right questions and recognize good ideas when they're good ideas and recognize bad ideas when they're bad ideas.
Thank you. Greg Jameson.
Well, I believe my opposition to what the Charter Revision Commission was doing was made pretty clear. You can watch those on tape. I took a very active role in trying to prevent the administration from receiving more power from the Charter Revision Commission. The intentions really were to eliminate all of the efforts of the council of a year's worth of work trying to allow the council to review all contracts that are issued by the city. Seems like a very good idea. The checks and balances are very simple to understand. But in this new proposal, the mayor would be allowed to control all of that process. The checks and balances that are in place through the charter were set up for very good reasons. Changing those reasons, changing the charter is a very bad idea. The balance is pretty good right now. We shouldn't change it.
Thank you. Kenny Anderson, Jr.
The charter is a tool that is used to manage our city. Any changes to it have to be taken extremely seriously. The change to give the mayor more power at this time was not a good idea. It is something that I know that the entire council was very much against. As Councilman Jameson said, we had just finished a process so that our council could review contracts, something that's done in virtually every other city in South Dakota. And I felt that that was an important victory for the people of Sioux Falls. I feel that the non-change of the charter, not allowing the mayor to have more power, is a positive move for our city. But we always have to continue these discussions, because the charter is a live document and can always be changed and amended. So as we move forward, we need to continue to vigilantly watch what is happening with our government. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question. Currently, the council's budget process does not include open public input until after the mayor's staff has made their proposals. How would you bring more public input into the process earlier? And what would be the benefit of that involvement? As well as a second question on public input. In keeping city government more open, what specifically would you be more open about? And we'll start that with Lindsay DiMatteo.
As far as, being more open and contributions from the public, I just think that, again, as a city council, we need to always remember why they're there, and they're there because of the public. But for the citizens, there is no city council. So I do think that there needs to be more respect and given, and more floor given, perhaps, to our citizens at council meetings. I understand a lot of times, especially with the event center and other big projects, citizens come, they sit there for hours, just like the councilors do, but yet, the businesses that, usually the big businesses that are going to be involved in the decision the council is going to make, they're allowed to sort of get up and take all the time to speak, and the citizens are sort of given a back seat and sometimes aren't given a seat at all. So as far as being more open as a Southwest District council member, I would be open to weekly meetings, monthly meetings. People can call, would be able to call me. I would like to have questions from the citizens live during council meetings. I think that would help.
Thank you. Greg Jameson.
Currently, the Fiscal Committee is reviewing the whole budget process. We've been concerned about public input in the past and that it is not heard. So we are addressing this issue. We're actually trying to reformulate the whole process, partly to make it easier for the council to process this, but as well to get the public involved in the whole discussion. One of the other key things that we really need to do, and it's probably only become more of a light here recently with this $4 million that we're trying to reinvest in our community is that we really need to reestablish the CIP, which is the Capital Improvement Plan. We really need to establish a Capital Improvement Plan Committee. This committee has essentially disappeared over the last few years. And there is a chance for the public to be involved now and discuss what issues they feel are most important to our community. After that discussion is all made, then the council reacts to that plan. But there's a perfect place for the citizens of our city to get involved in that plan.
Thank you. Kenny Anderson, Jr.
Openness in city government. Some of the things that have happened over the last 4 years with this council and the administration. We've just put out a new website. SIRE is a new computer system that will be used by many of our departments that will make it easier for us to archive and unarchive information, making it easier for the citizens to get that information. Committee meetings. We have public services. We have fiscal. We have UDC. We have many different meetings that are all publicly announced and that the public can go to. I know one person who goes to a lot of them, and thank you. We have other public meetings also that are, sometimes very well attended, sometimes not. And the last thing, if you want information and you can't find it, contact your council person. We will help you, whether it's a new council person or someone who's trying to get reelected or one of our other council people in the stands. Thank you.
Thank you. Kyle Vanderlinden.
Again, this is what's wrong with government. We sit here and we say, you come to us and tell us what you think. This isn't the idea of a city councilor. The whole idea of a council is that you are a representative of your ward or your district. And part of those duties is to go out and seek information. It's not sitting back and waiting for somebody to call you and say, I think this should be done, because that's one perspective. It's more or less going out to the city and getting their perspective. And again, De Matteo said, to have meetings weekly or monthly, whatever it be. I think that's important. I think that's a stance that each council member should take, and I think it's something that each council member should implement. And it's not just creating a committee so that you don't have to do your job. It's not waiting for a phone call so that you don't have to do your job. No offense, but it's the idea of this government system of mayor-council is to have the councilors work on behalf of their citizens, and that is what I intend to do, and that's what I will do if elected.
Thank you. Our next question, how would you enhance the recreational and cultural facilities of our city? And we will start with Greg Jameson.
Well, I suppose the best way that I would enhance those is proper balance. There's a lot of priorities in our city that need addressing, and you have to balance them out. Sure, it'd be great to have a park a half a mile from everybody's home or door, but that's pretty expensive. And yes, it would be great to have indoor facilities all over town, but that's expensive. So there's perspective is you've got to make the balance right. You've got to make those decisions as you can afford to make them. I think what we've got coming here in the near future is a huge opportunity of indoor activities for our city. And I think with some decent private partnerships, we'll be able to provide those to the city. What's happening at the pavilion is a great example of new cultural activities that are going to be available to the public. So we're always working at little places where we can, so look for that balance to continue.
Thank you. Kenny Anderson, Jr.
Sioux Falls always loves to promote their parks. Thanks to our former city councils, I think our park systems are second to none. I'll say that to anyone, anywhere in this country. To enhance them, it needs a public-private partnership. Our parks are expensive to upkeep. We make new parks every year as our city grows. But the upkeep, the maintenance, the replacement of things within our parks, we need the help of the public also to do that. And a great example is something that I'm working on right now, and that is to provide trees for some of our city parks. And the details of that will come out later, but those are things that we need to do as citizens. If you have a park nearby and you see something that it needs, once again, it's a public-private partnership that we need to have to make these parks work right. And our city spends a great deal of money and resources on these parks to make them affordable and enjoyable for our citizens and everyone else who comes here. Thank you.
Thank you. Kyle Vanderlinden.
You know, I think it's important that we consider effectiveness in city government. The current council right now is responsible for cutting Parks and Recreation over 34% throughout the past 3 years, and this is in their term. So in speaking to them and asking their input of how can we progress city parks and stuff like that, I think it's a false impression. You know, the idea of government working for the people and having the people's input is important, and this is where, you know, based off of everybody that I spoke to, I live across the street from a park. I see, you know, the inefficiency already. But, you know, to progress, I think it's important that we appropriate the funds in the right direction. You know, we look at what has been cut. Everything else has not been cut besides Parks and Recreation and our infrastructure. Everything else has been increased. You know, I think it's important that we have somebody in City Council that recognizes that. You know, I think we can sit here and say we want this and we want these little small pet projects of these Parks and Recreation, but I think it's a larger essence of what we can provide for the city and appropriating those funds to the best interest of the city.
Thank you. Lindsay DiMatteo.
Thank you. And again, to go off of what Kyle said, you know, when he says that everything else increased except for Parks and Recreation, that means the size of our government increased. So our current government was all right increasing its own size, but it did cut over the last 3 years the Parks and Recreation and infrastructure that our citizens, usually I think when you ask South Dakota or people from Sioux Falls what they think is the most important, they would say Parks and Recreation and infrastructure. So I just think that there's clearly a disconnect then if the only area that has shrunk by actions of our current administration and our city council are the very areas that our citizens would like to see increased. So I would like to see a plan for the city again, modeled more on true neighborhood feel. You know, the people will help upkeep and maintain the parks in their areas if they have pride in their neighborhood and they feel an actual sense of community, instead of just that they're driving out to their neighborhoods to sleep so they can wake up the next day and head back into the main part of town to work. So I think there needs to be a comprehensive plan and idea as to, yes, we are growing, but how are we growing, and is it and the way we're doing it is in the best interest of the citizens. Thanks.
Thank you. And our final question, please describe what the Sioux Falls of 2017 will look like. We'll start with Kenny Anderson, Jr.
My hope for Sioux Falls in 2017 is that we have a growing and thriving city, just like we have today. We have our differences, but we try to find resolutions to those. We have changing diversity. We've accepted that. I feel that 2017 could be a great year for Sioux Falls. We'll have a new event center that will be finally broken in and hopefully contributing to the community. Our downtown, our River Greenway, that project could be completed by then also. We'll have to see what the plans are within the CIP, but those are other things. We'll have a vibrant downtown, and we always have Falls Park. And those are some of the things that I think are the stars and jewels of this city and will always be. Thank you.
Thank you. Kyle Vanderlinden.
If elected, you know, I see year 2017 as a, you know, the progress towards bringing in young professionals. I think it's important that we have young professionals in our society. I think, you know, for my example is I went to University of Iowa for 4 years. I went to University of Illinois for a year, and USD for a couple of years too. And everybody that I met from USD, over 90% of them that were from Sioux Falls moved away. And it's not just a problem that we get people moving in here, and that's great, but I think it's important that we focus on the younger generation that maintain their presence. And if elected, you will see more of a presence of that. And I think it's important that we recognize that. It's not just young people, though. We need to facilitate to the elders. We need to listen to everybody. You know, our generation, my generation, has not been looked at. You know, it's one perspective to say we want this, and I think this is great, but it's another perspective that we stand here and you have a leader in here that says, this is how we get there. I have plans, I have a lot of ideas, innovative ideas that can progress this city, and I think it's important that we take that in consideration upon this election, April 10th.
Thank you. Lindsay DiMatteo.
Thank you. Well, I think if the current council is still in place in 2017, I think you're going to see higher taxes and expanded government control with little noticeable return in the average everyday citizen's life. I would like to be a representative of the Southwest District, I think, in 2017. And let me say also, of course, I do think Sioux Falls is still going to be a great city to live in 2017. You can't do all that much harm, I hope, knock on wood, in that short time frame. But I think if I am on the city council, I think that the citizens will see more of their tax money going towards those projects that they feel are important, their safety, their infrastructure, their parks and recreation. And I think they'll see their money being spent more wisely. Also, I think that while there will still be a focus on downtown, because downtowns are important in a thriving community, you will see the focus redirected back out to the rest of the city, which I feel, again, a lot of citizens have felt a little bit forgotten here over the last 4 years.
Thank you. And Greg Jameson.
Well, I would say that in 5 years is all from now, I think you'll all still agree that Sioux Falls is still a safe place to live. It's a great place to raise a family, a great place to start a business, to be in business. You'll have new modern roadways, smoother roads ahead, I should say, clean water supply, clean ample water supply with our Lewis and Clark connection. Will be removed from the floodplain maps from FEMA. A lot of projects that we've been doing over the years will continue, and some of them will be finished. The event center will be finished. What a huge economic impact that'll have on our community. 5 years, I probably won't be on the council. Well, I guess I wouldn't be, 4-year terms, but I'm still excited about the future of the city, and I think it'll just be a better place to live.
Well, thank you. We appreciate the candidates who are participating in our civic process by running for City Council. And we'd also like to thank the audience, both live and on TV. And just a reminder, this will be rebroadcast on CityLink at various times until the election. And thanks as well to our organizers and volunteers through the League of Women Voters of Sioux Falls, the Sioux Falls Area Chamber of Commerce, and the City of Sioux Falls. Absentee voting has begun at the Minnehaha County Auditor's Office, and please remember to vote on April 10th. Thank you.